this?
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Friends of the university, it is now my great pleasure and distinct honor to present to you the 8th Chancellor of the University of North Carolina, Asheville, Nancy J. Cable.
What a humbling experience. And I am deeply, deeply grateful to all of you for being here today and to celebrate this extraordinary university. So let me begin by saying, Dr. Roper, members of the Board of Governors, local officials, my former chancellors on whose shoulders I stand every single day, Chief Sneed of the Eastern Band, Judge Hill, Mayor Mannheimer, elected officials, delegates from other colleges and universities, Chairman Briggs and the University of North Carolina Asheville trustees, faculty, staff, and our students, my family and friends. Good afternoon and welcome. First and foremost, heartfelt gratitude is in order for all of my UNC Asheville colleagues whose work and dedication have made this celebration not only possible, but extraordinary. I salute our physical plant staff, our grounds crew, our food service colleagues, our faculty, our senior staff and students, our campus police, our chancellors and events office staff, and of course, our University of North Carolina Asheville trustees. For all of your tireless and dedicated effort this week for this university and for this regional community in which we find all of ourselves gathered in common purpose. This is a joyful day indeed, as you might suspect, and I am deeply grateful for your presence here. When the notion of an installation first arose last fall, I thought it a much better idea to have national thought leaders here in conversation with our faculty, students, and staff about pressing issues of our time, and then just skip the whole ceremonial business. But I quickly learned the limits of a chancellor's authority, in addition to not being able to swim. It is my privilege to share with you as leaders from near and far and together with our faculty, staff, and students, this extraordinary and unique university. Today especially, I invite us to consider together the current forces in play across higher education and to enthusiastically recommit our embrace of the University of North Carolina Asheville's distinctive mission and purpose as the UNC System's Liberal Arts and Sciences University. Today, the title of my remarks to you are Keeper of the Light. Those of us lucky enough to live in the great state of North Carolina are likely to have developed a fondness for our beloved lighthouses, especially for me, Cape Hatteras, Currituck, and Old Baldy on Bald Head Island. I have cherished my times on the North Carolina coast and have been enchanted by the simplicity and the complexity of the lighthouses, built to keep the light burning in uncertain times, to bring ships both big and small out of the storm, to add a human touch to the guiding of light. And despite their simplicity and straightforward appearance, these structures belie the complex task that their keepers are called to perform. Much like the work of a university, keepers of the light must keep the light burning brightly, for a dim light only confuses the approaching ship. Keepers must weather the storm and watch for disruptions, all the while staying true to their mission to guide and support. Keepers must be ever steadfast to the truth and the facts. A lighthouse must be a thing of majesty, of real beauty, despite its constant need for paint, good roof, and ongoing repairs. Most of all, keepers must be ever mindful that rough seas will give way to calm waters, and then again to rough seas again. So is the way of nature's power. I firmly believe that we at UNC Asheville are keepers of the light in higher education for this state, the region, the nation, and we are keeping the light bright during these complicated and challenging times mentioned by several of my colleagues here today. When I began my career several decades ago, I was often asked, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" After all, that was the question of the day, right? What vocation, what job title did we aspire to? Now, since over half of the jobs our graduates will fill in their lifetime have yet to be created, perhaps the new question we should be asking young folks and our adult students is, which of the world's problems are you most interested in solving? A much better, more relevant question today. During these last 42 years in higher education, especially these last 2 decades, there has been increased complexities and new pressures, especially on liberal arts and sciences colleges and universities, that are dedicated to what Ernest Boyer said and wrote in his 1987 book, The Undergraduate Experience. Our role is, quote, to educate more competent, more concerned, and more complete human beings. The landscape of higher education, or shall I say the seas around us, has changed dramatically in these years. Now, we face a crowded, highly diverse, and ever more connected world where colleges and universities must reflect relevance and resonance with the complicated world at large. It is now a world where we often know more about global issues all the way around the world than we know about our local and state news and affairs. Marshall McLuhan's concept of the global village, once assumed to be a long-distance possibility, is now upon us in full display. A compelling summary of the rough seas in which we find ourselves these days appears in Terence McTaggart's recent publication called The 21st Century University Presidency, A Call to Enterprise Leadership. He frames today's realities for higher education leaders as follows, and I quote, "The current environment for a college or university president is more dynamic, challenging, and threatening, yet full of potential than any time over the past 50 years. Perennial challenges, scarcity of resources, partisan conflict, student activism have intensified. But new challenges, the influences of social media, the advent of more disruptive technologies, all contribute to the current drama." End of quote. Rough seas around us? Yes, indeed. Here are additional challenges that I think we all face together, and I would humbly add them to McTaggart's list. First, the public's confidence in higher education has eroded significantly. For well over 200 years in this nation, a college degree has increased one's lifelong income and has provided more opportunities for good works in one's life. But now, for some millennials and Generation Z and for their families, faith in higher education has been shaken by high costs and higher student debt. Second, our business models are being challenged by questions of declining state support, though we also benefit here in North Carolina from great fiscal prudence and good attention from our state government. And yet, in those times of shrinking resources in general higher education, there's an ongoing demand to sustain high quality and ever more customized academic programs for our students. This is very labor-intensive work to educate and shape the minds and hearts of tomorrow's leaders. We find cost pressures on our labor-intensive work every day. As a result, those of us in high-quality universities have become dependent more and more on donor philanthropy to sustain our quality, our edge, our access, and our commitment to our students. Third, the resurgence of student activism has fueled millennial and post-millennial students who are now very adept at using and even sometimes exploiting social media to galvanize action to address justice issues such as inequality, racism, sexual misconduct, and to confront some of the social issues before all of us, the needs for affordable housing, the elimination of the achievement gap in our schools, among many others. Fourth, our political divides present our students profound schisms in the American society, confounding their existing hopes in the role of our democracy and their role in it. Fifth, despite our strength as lighthouses of learning, the last 2 decades of change on most campuses has and can create instability. Campus quality and momentum now depends on stable, shared governance that can sustain the planning at hand and the institutional-wide priorities and momentum. Without ongoing shared governance, stagnation and malaise can develop among campus constituencies. It can be both unproductive and time-consuming. Finally, last and perhaps most disruptive is the current and coming technological revolution that invites and even demands a change in the curriculum, what we teach, and our pedagogy, how we teach it, and even questioning the definition of what it means in today's world to be an educated person and global citizen. Here are some thoughts from McTaggart again on the topic of technology, and I quote, "Access to the internet has exploded through the advent of laptops and tablets and smartphones and other mobile devices as ubiquitous as a wristwatch. These innovations have spurred change, sometimes positive, sometimes violent, with unpredictable outcomes that range from disruptions at American universities to national uprisings like the Arab Spring. In all likelihood, higher education is in for further shocks: artificial intelligence, virtual reality, cognitive mapping, and the analysis of big data separate from the ethics involved. These will transform how students learn. The tools of virtual reality, for example, are already beginning to transform medical education, engineering, and even art. Disciplines once thought to be available only through in-person learning in a classroom. These elements of change and challenge in our rough seas are upon us, but I suggest that we can be, in fact, we must be, keepers of the light, that we can choose to see times that hold tremendous and inspiring opportunities for us as an academic institution within the strength and respect of the UNC system. We at UNC Asheville are uniquely positioned to shine a light by our truly exceptional faculty as teachers and researchers going outward from this community, this campus, and across the globe, to celebrate our dedicated staff who every day work long and hard with great skill, and to face the challenges we need to face through continuous strength and improvement as an institution. To overuse my metaphor for a minute, I truly and firmly believe that in this period of wind and rough seas, it will allow us to stand stronger and more resolute in our mission to provide a relevant 21st century liberal arts and sciences education, which is now more needed than ever before, given the rate of change in the world in which we live. So what do I mean by this notion of liberal arts and sciences? I actually had a parent recently ask me, do you also teach the conservative arts and sciences? I did my best. Why can we claim such an essential academic purpose? Here are some ideas. Again, hearkening back to Ernest Boyer's writing, he gave a good rationale for our kind of distinctive mission. And I quote, "The liberal arts and sciences promote a program of study that introduces students not only to essential knowledge, but to the connections across disciplines and to the universal experiences that are common to all people. Without this understanding, human relationships are diminished, and the quality of life for all is reduced. Is it too much to expect," Boyer asks, "that in this hyper-competitive, global, market-driven age, that a college graduate can live and bring forward to the world integrity, civility, and even compassion?" Here at UNC Asheville, we believe that that question is not too much to ask. It is what we do because of the quality of our faculty and our students. Our democracy depends fundamentally at its root on a coherent understanding from and among our graduates to understand the competing priorities inherent in our most intractable problems as a globe. Here we strive every day in ways big and small to imbue in our students, our graduates, and in continuing support for our alumni, the will, the knowledge, and the ways of learning that allow them to contribute to society and to succeed. In short, we strive to educate graduates who, frankly, have a better set of questions than all of the answers. As Dr. Frunnis Johnson, a longtime academic dean at Davidson College, was fond of saying, quote, "A liberal arts education does not teach you to do something. In fact, it teaches you to do anything." Our UNC Asheville history provides a useful lens on this concept. Dr. Rengrow quoted from exactly what I also had in my speech from Dr. Roy Riggs, whose son Greg is here and has represented Oxford University today. Our ability to be the designated and desirable liberal arts and sciences college of the UNC system came primarily because we stood for two things: sound academic intellectual work and boldly experimental work, which we are really good at doing. Even after my short 9 months, I could offer you literally hundreds of examples of the work of our faculty and our students and this community at large. But here are a few ways that I think we are living up to those words written in 1963 about what we do here and what we care about. So again, amongst the hundreds of examples, here are a few I want to mention. First and foremost, our core curricular tradition is and will remain the humanities. It is at the center of all that we do academically, and we are deeply committed to the humane lives of leadership and service that happen for our graduates after they have experienced our humanities program. Second, we have proof positive from a number, literally scores, of leading foundations and philanthropic partners who affirm the work that our faculty and our students are doing. Let me give you 3 examples. Just in the last 2 years, we have received grants from Robert Wood Johnson, for our health and wellness programs from GlaxoSmithKline, for our work in chemistry and the diversity that's needed in the pipeline in sciences, and also one from the Mellon Foundation that supports continuing innovation in our already strong humanities program. Number 3, 2 of our faculty have been honored recently with Fulbright Awards. One went to study educational methods in Ghana, and another will go to Cape Coast to study Africana Studies in the year ahead. Further, we have 2 students who will graduate this year. I will be honored to provide their diplomas to them. These 2 Fulbright students one will go to Poland and the other to Vietnam to engage and carry on not just the undergraduate work they did here, but the research that they were able to do with our exceedingly talented faculty. Most universities, and I've been on a few campuses in my years, would long to even have 1 Fulbright in a graduating class, and we have 2 in this year alone. Number 4, our partnerships with our key local and regional stakeholders are many and range from the city and county schools to the Martin Luther King Jr. Association to our relationship, a close one, with AB Tech, where AB Tech students who come into UNCA are among our best, to our widely appreciated tutoring efforts in schools, such as the Marvelous Math Club, to the scores of our students who volunteer hours and hours each week in this community and in this region at large. Vital is our relationship with Episcopal Legal Services, with Black Mountain Art Museum, Center for Craft and Design, and I could go on. Our community partners are real partners here. Number 5, our athletes are achievers in the classroom. They're among the strongest GPAs on campus. They win national championships too. Most recently, our men's tennis won the national championship, and in the recent several years, both women's and men's basketball has won in good form, fine form. We are current, and yet we also learn from the past. One of our faculty recently coordinated a week of awareness and activities to celebrate the importance of the 65th anniversary of Brown versus the Topeka Board of Education. This faculty brought us speakers, seminars, a keynote, discussions, some of the hard conversations, but all important. That is a liberal arts education in action. Number 7, our faculty are scholars, and once again, almost to a person, I could tell you about the research going on among our faculty, but let me pick 2 examples that are particularly global. One faculty member from our philosophy department will present a paper this summer in South America on the philosophical legal issues of change and progress in South American law. Another from our history department will be an expert witness in India on a case that relates to Indian religious and cultural traditions. It would literally take hours to brief you on the extent, the breadth, and the depth of the research of our faculty. Number 8, we are a proud, close-knit educational partner with the Eastern Band of Cherokee. We teach the language. We strive to educate our students about the essential importance of studying indigenous cultures with respect and reverence for tradition as a way of understanding all of the human condition. Number 9, when we address the controversial issues of our most recent Martin Luther King Jr. Day speaker, for whom we stood strong in the opportunity for free speech on this campus, we also worked very closely with the Center for Jewish Studies leadership that helped us to lead community conversations across this entire city and county that expanded the learning opportunities for all of us. Number 10, our students are in demand from many, many corners of society. Our pre-med students, thanks to the hard work of our faculty and staff, our pre-med students are routinely admitted to their very first choice. Many of our graduates enter Teach for America programs and scatter themselves across this great nation. Our science and engineering students, who have sometimes had internships and research opportunities beginning as early as the sophomore year, find that they are in great demand at the point of graduation. 11, Our partnership in the healthcare of this region is decades long and strong. We partner with the Mountain Area Healthcare Educational Cooperative, leader MAHEC, in both pharmacy studies, public health, and our faculty provide the significant intellectual capital in scientific research that the MAHEC director recently said to me is, quote, vital and essential to the quality of healthcare in this region. Number 12, I'm particularly proud of this one. Our students and our student leaders, this year led by Michael Davis, are truly exceptional. One terrific story, I think, describes it all. When Hurricane Florence hit our eastern North Carolina neighbors, only Western Carolina University and UNC Asheville stayed open and operational. At the insistence and leadership of our students and our SGA, we took in between 250 and 300 students from UNCW and UNC Pembroke who were flooded out for 2.5 weeks. Those visiting students bunked in with our students. They were welcomed in the dining hall. And as surprising as it may be to all of you, our faculty, true to form, indicated that they would welcome students in their classrooms while they were supposedly on a 2.5-week break. What is even more surprising is that a number of those students accompanied our students to those classes and continued the intellectual work and the use of our library and our learning facilities. Just think about the service that we provided in our own small way to the state and to what was going on in the pain and suffering of others on the eastern side of the state. I could go on, but these are a few of the examples that relate directly to our distinctive academic mission. Here's what we intend to deliver. We produce thinking minds. We produce not just a workforce-ready graduate, which is true for many, if not all, of our graduates, but we produce a whole cadre of working thought force leaders ready to learn anything that they find beyond the halls of this institution. Our alumni are proof positive of the evidence of that claim. Number 2, we ensure that to the best of our ability, every student here has the opportunity to lead, to develop the emotional intelligence to work in collaboration with others like and unlike themselves. We honor not just the vitality and talent that emerges from close, dedicated attention to diversity and inclusion, but we boldly seek to find new levels of equity that will address the structural inequities of our full society, in addition to any inequities that exist on this campus. We believe that will move us all forward in the common good. Number 4, we have a deepening commitment to shared governance. We are beginning to know and understand that both expertise and common interests bind us together to do our best. After all, this university will be here long after we have all moved on. Number 5, we honor and remain dedicated to our sense of this place here in these stunning mountains and to all aspects of the partnerships in nonprofit, art, corporate, educational, and healthcare partners in the region. We remain committed to shining our light on what we expect of our students as they become agents of their own lives. Critical thinking, collaborative problem solving, creativity, a love of the arts and music, capability in complex information processing with a keen eye to the ethical questions that underlie all data. And finally, an abiding sense of resilience in their own lives. These are what we strive to do every single day. And these characteristics were written about in a recent book by my brilliant and beloved mentor, John Kirkendall, who is with us here on the platform. He wrote, with several of his learned colleagues, a small but mighty text called, quote, "The Lighting of the Mind for Action, a Call to Trustees and Leaders of America's Liberal Arts Colleges," he summarized what I just described to you as the facets of an educated person through the liberal arts and sciences. Civitas, gravitas, prudentia, humility, curiosity, cultured insight, offered all in an environment ready to forgive a mistake or a misstep in the name of learning. That is what we do here, and it is what we strive to do despite these rough seas. In summary, I share two final thoughts that may be takeaways for you today, given our time together in celebration of the university. Just 6 months ago, Scott Hurley, a billionaire scion of the Silicon Valley tech world, published a book called The Fuzzy and the Techie. After years of hiring only high-tech, seasoned, trained experts, he has declared in this text that from this point forward, he will hire only broadly, liberally educated graduates into his many corporations. He states that claim in these words, and I quote, "The great irony of any criticism of the liberal arts is that it's the liberal arts and sciences and their cultivation of distinctly human abilities that machines cannot even begin to approximate, that are paving the way for the most reliable employment today that is sure to continue in the coming years and decades. I believe that a strong liberal arts and sciences education is going to be ever more valuable in the decades ahead. Success will be determined by one's ability to deal with what one cannot turn into a logarithm, and how one deals with unstructured problems and new situations. This will be the mark of an educated and useful professional, and I want as many as I can get." Finally, my colleague and friend Michael Roth, who is currently the president of Wesleyan University in Connecticut, finished a book 3 years ago entitled Why Liberal Education Matters. I thought quoting him would be a good way to end these remarks and help with our celebration of what we do. Roth writes, "The mission of liberal learning in higher education should be to teach students to liberate, animate, cooperate, and instigate. Through student doubt, imagination, and hard work, they come to understand that they can reshape themselves and their societies. Liberal education matters. Its relevance is not just about landing one's first job. It emerges over the course of a lifetime. The free inquiry of a reflective and pragmatic education prompts us to think for ourselves, take responsibility for our own beliefs and hopes. Liberal education matters far beyond the university because it increases our capacity to understand the world, to contribute to it, to reshape ourselves. When it works, it never ends." End of quote. UNC Asheville's service as the keeper of the light and as the lighthouse for this region and state is 92 years young. The years ahead of us, despite these challenging times, call for us to be even stronger and more dedicated than we are today. We can, and we will, stand tall in the loyalty to our distinctive academic mission, our academic standards, and we'll go forward with boldly experimental work in these rough seas times. As one of the authentic gems in the UNC system, our beam of light is shining brightly and strong. Our work as the keeper of the light every day is a true privilege. Thank you so much for joining us today for this celebration. It is the honor of my lifetime to serve as your chancellor. Thank you.